Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I'm sharing with you my diary entry for the week of April 21st through the 27th. Today is Saturday, April 27th. So this week I finished 2 books, which is a nice kind of update for me because, I've been struggling with my reading, so I'll be able to talk to you about those. I finished a knitting item, so that's interesting as well. I worked on another piece. And we're going to do some rearranging for my Orilium Magical Readathon prompts. So let's get into it. So as you know, I usually only film on Saturdays, and my neighbors are doing some home improvement projects. So the ambient noise is kind of on and off, and I never know when they're going to be working on something or anything like that. We've also had lots of aircraft going over our home today, so it is what it is. This is real life, and I'm filming when I can, and so hopefully it's not too distracting for you, but just wanted to say that before we got started. So let's get started with what I finished reading first. So this week, like I said, I finished 2 books. I finished Dark Prince, which is the first book in the Dark series by Feehan. I was reading this for the Orilium Magical Readathon prompt to read a book by an author who blurbed your last 5-star read. And so Feehan was it. I, at the end of this book, really enjoyed everything that happened. From where I had talked to you about it last week, which was from chapter 14 on, there was a lot more action. You finally got to, who was killing the Carpathians and things like that. There was another fight, and I really enjoyed all of that. So when I had to figure out what I was going to rate this book, I really wasn't sure. Normally, when I finish a book, I already know pretty much what I'm going to rate it. I have a system of rating. I've talked about the system that I have used in the past. I'll link the video here in case you're interested in hearing what certain star ratings mean for me. But that's kind of the rating scale that I've gone by for pretty much the entire time I've been on Goodreads. I'm trying to figure out what star rating to give something. And that goes the same for Korean dramas as well, because I used to watch a lot of Korean dramas before Drama Fever got nixed. Drama Fever was the place where I was watching all of my Korean dramas. And when Drama Fever got closed down, it was hard to find Korean dramas to watch. And so, anyway, back to the rating. When I was watching a lot of Korean dramas, I had a small group of friends that also watched Korean dramas. And one of the ladies there had come up with a rating scale on how to rate the Korean dramas. And it applies to my enjoyment of books as well. And so I thought, I'm just going to use that when I need to figure out what I need to rate books. So that's kind of how I came up with that. It wasn't something that I came up with. It was something that a friend from a Korean drama group had come up with. And it's something that has just stuck with me because it's very pertinent to how I feel about when I finish books. And so anyway, when I finished this one, I couldn't decide what this would be. I kept fluctuating, and so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go and put it through Cawpile and see what Cawpile says. And so I ended up having to do that, which is the first time I've actually used Cawpile to figure out what a book rating is going to be for something that I read. And after putting this through Cawpile, it ended up a solid 3. And so that's what I ended up giving it. That being said, this is the author's cut special edition of this book. And I probably should not have read this as my first touch with this series or this author's work in general, because this particular edition has an extra 100 pages that were not included when the book was first published in 1999. And I strongly believe that the 100 pages that were cut were all the sex scenes that we have in the first half of this book. I'm very interested to see if that is in fact true, but at the same time, I don't want to reread this book, at least not right now. And so I think if I had read the copy that was published originally, I probably would have enjoyed this more, and it would have probably been more of a 4-star. But there was just too many sex scenes. Too many. Like, oh my goodness, too many. And so I definitely lost enjoyment because it felt gratuitous. It didn't give anything to the story. And so with how many there were, I was also skipping through those sections. So I feel like it was all wasted, on me. So while I enjoyed the latter half of this book, the first half I didn't enjoy as much. That being said, we are getting to know like this world. They're teaching us about the race of people and their abilities and things like that. We're also getting to know the characters and their relationships. And I think with most first books in a series, you kind of get a bit of a lag because of that. You have to like lay down the foundation for your series, right? At the beginning of the series with your first book. And because we had all of that at the beginning of this book really dragged for me, but it was also compounded with there had to be at least 10 sex scenes in the first half of this book. And so once I got past all of that and we got into the action and figuring out who was killing all of the Carpathians and who had wrangled other people into it and what the main objective was and all of that, that was so much more interesting for me because all of that meant that you couldn't have gratuitous sex scenes in that section. So it really was more like story, which I enjoyed. It was really good action. The fight scenes were really, really interesting. I enjoyed some of the side characters. I'm really looking forward to finding out more about those side characters. We get a lot of background into one particular side character, but there are other side characters that I would like to know more about. So I'm definitely going to be continuing with this series. I do actually have 4 more books in this series. And from what I can gather from the summary, like the first couple lines of the summaries for each of the books, it seems like we're going to be sticking with this group of Carpathians and focusing in on some of the side characters that we had met in this one. So I am looking forward to continuing with this one. Hopefully there's not going to be a lot of gratuitous sex scenes in subsequent installments because that really started to bother me after a while. But an enjoyable ending to this first installment, and I'm looking forward to experiencing more in the world of the Carpathians. And so that was that one. Even though it only got a 3-star, I would say it was still one of my more enjoyable books this month. And so that was a, unexpected turn. And a welcome one, actually. So even though it's 3 stars, I do see hope for that series. So that's great. The other book that I just finished really early this morning, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses. This is the first book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas. So I was reading this book to complete the prompt of your zodiac recommendation for the Orilium Magical Readathon. I had found this as a Virgo zodiac recommendation from Stephanie from Stephanie's Bookverse. I will link that video down in the description box below in case you're interested. But this book is the first installment in the series where we meet Feyre, who is our main character, and she and her family are impoverished, and she, very much like Katniss, goes out into the woods and hunts and things to bring back food and pelts and things to sell so that she can help out her family, because her sisters are younger and they're kind of frivolous, if I'm honest. and her father's been injured and can't really do anything. And so she's kind of the main breadwinner of the family. And so one day she goes out into the forest and she sees this huge wolf and just kills it. She kills it. She's thinking, oh, what a boon for my family, right? Well, it turns out that that large wolf was a high fae, and someone comes knocking on her door and says, you know, there's a punishment for killing high fae. I can either kill you now, or you can come and live with me in my kingdom. And so she opts to go and live with this high fae. And so it's kind of loosely based on Beauty and the Beast. I say very loosely based. There are elements of the Beauty and the Beast story. But there is a lot more in this book. So if you're looking for a true like Beauty and the Beast type story, I don't feel this is like a true Beauty and the Beast retelling. There are definitely elements of it there, but it's very, very different from what I kind of experienced. I really enjoyed this one. I started listening to it on audiobook. There are a couple of different audiobook options available. There is the one that is narrated by Jennifer Ikeda, and that is the one that I borrowed from Hoopla. This one is a 16-hour and 7-minute audiobook. So I had listened to 70% of this book before I switched to the ebook copy. I decided to listen to that one instead of the dramatized adaptation audiobooks, because there is that option as well available on Hoopla, and I'm referencing my phone here. The dramatized adaptation of the audiobook is broken up into 2 parts, and between the 2 parts, there's only 11 hours and something of audiobook. So I'm thinking that it's an abridged version that they're doing the dramatized adaptation for. And so that's kind of why I went with the 16-hour one, because I figured that's definitely not abridged, and I definitely wanted a full version of the story, especially on my first go with this series. And so yeah, I listened to about 70% of it, really enjoyed it. And the only reason why I ended up switching to ebook was because I wanted to fit in another book before the end of the month, and I knew that I had a better chance of finishing this particular one on an ebook and then moving my other book to audiobook. So I really, really enjoyed this one. I would say I didn't enjoy it as much as, say, House of Earth and Blood, which is the first book in the Crescent City series. But I think the reason for that is because House of Earth and Blood is a really big book. Like, there's so much more material in there that I feel like with the amount of pages that you get in House of Earth and Blood, you get that time to build the relationship, to, you know, get to know your characters. And there was a really strong mystery element in House of Earth and Blood, whereas in A Court of Thorns and Roses, it is not really mysterious. I mean, there is kind of a wonder as to what's going on in the lands, why Feyre gets the opportunity to go and live with this high fae instead of being killed immediately on the spot as a punishment for killing another high fae. There's also something going on in the lands and things like that. But at the same time, I don't really feel like we got a good, like, substantial amount of time with our characters to be able to explain the relationship that comes up in the book. I personally don't feel like there was any kind of love involved. Like, it didn't seem to have enough time for them to even build those feelings. It didn't make sense to me. I can definitely see some sort of like attraction, and you definitely get the sense of like falling into lust. I get that. But I can't understand where this whole I love you has come out from within this story, because to me it didn't feel like there was even enough time to build those types of connections in this book. In fact, I feel like there might be another strong candidate for a relationship somewhere else in the cast that we were introduced to in this book. And with that line, I could see where their relationship could have a solid foundation. Like, I felt like we were getting more of a solid foundation of like a friendship with these two characters, as opposed to the romantic relationship that we're being told is served to us in this book. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that with the things that have happened, you don't get to see our characters who are supposedly in love with each other together a lot. And I don't know, I couldn't be convinced that there was a love line between the two of them. But I could be convinced that there was a growing something happening between two of the other characters. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen with this one. Sarah J. Maas, from my experience, I've only read 2 books from her now. The first book in the Crescent City series and the first book in this Court and Thorns and Roses series. The ending action sequences are very good. I really, really enjoyed the action sequences that came up in Crescent City, A House of Earth and Blood, and the action sequences that we got in A Court of Thorns and Roses. I really enjoyed them. They were captivating. They kept my interest. And, you know, there's a little side of, like, fear, like, for your characters also, which means that she made me care about the character that she's presenting. And so I was very surprised that I really enjoyed this one. I think I probably would have enjoyed it just as much had I read it when the book had first come out. But yes, I'm finally getting around to this series. Really, really enjoyed it. We'll definitely be continuing it. And I gave this one 4 stars. So it was a very surprising kind of thing, because this book, it has a lot of hype on it, and I typically don't go with the majority when there's a lot of hype. It's the reason why I avoid hyped books, because I tend to have that unpopular opinion. But I'm happy to say that I really enjoyed this one. We'll definitely be continuing. And so, yes. As my second to the last book of the month, I think, at least I'm hoping to finish one more book before the month is over. I think this was a really, really good one to kind of start closing out my month with. And I have no doubt that the book that I am currently trying to get finished before the end of the month is going to help me close out the month and on a very high note. And so with that being said, let me start talking to you about what I am currently reading. So because I switched from the audiobook to the ebook copy of A Court of Thorns and Roses, I started listening to A Ghoul's Guide for Love and Murder by Victoria Laurie. This is the 10th book in the Ghost Hunter Mystery Series. As of right now, it is currently the final book in this series. But I know I mentioned to you that I had heard from the author that she was working on an 11th book and that she was hoping to have it out by the end of the month. I am keeping my eyes wide open for that book because I really, really love this series. So in this book, we have our cast of characters. We have MJ, who is a psychic medium. We have Gilly, who is her best friend. And we have Heath, who is another psychic medium. And throughout this series, they were connected to a TV show called Ghoul Getters, which kind of took them all over the world investigating hauntings and helping those spirits pass over, or kind of imprisoning, I guess you could call it, those spirits. So they've met a wide variety of spirits throughout this series. At the beginning, Gilly goes and does something dumb. Gilly, like I said, is MJ's best friend, and they're finally getting some publicity with one of the cases that they had filmed a few books back. So book 7, I think, is the one that they had filmed and is now getting picked up by a production company, and they're doing all kinds of publicity, and they're doing like a museum exhibit with like artifacts and things from our group's adventures. And Gilly goes and takes one of the most dangerous artifacts from one of their most harrowing experiences and lends it to the museum. And so we're kind of dealing with that situation right now. And if I remember correctly, this book not only brings back the ghoul or baddie from that particular book, which I believe was book 3, but we have several other malevolent spirits that we've met throughout the series come back in this one. I mean, you can kind of see, and I'm not quite sure because I don't quite remember, but there is a hatchet right there. And I don't remember if the hatchet man from book 2 was one of the ones that came back in this one. But I know for sure, just from rereading the beginning of this one, that the one from book 3 is back. And that was a pretty nasty one. I believe the one from book 7 also comes back, if I'm not mistaken. So this one definitely kind of brings you full circle with our team, if I remember correctly. And I really, really enjoyed this one. And so I'm looking forward to finishing my reread of this. So I just started listening to this one on Thursday, and I'm on chapter 4, page 76. So like I said, it's a reread for me, really, really enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to hopefully finishing this one out before the month is over. So this brings me to my Orilium shakeup. So one of my prompts earlier this month was to read a book with a light source on the cover, and I had said that I was going to use this one, which is the 9th book in the Ghost Hunter Mystery series, because she is carrying a flashlight. But if you remember last week, I told you that I DNF'd my color wheel selection, and so I needed to find something else to read for that selection. And my daughter, so kind as she is, had said, well, why don't you just switch the books out? So I definitely have the color for the color wheel down here on the book, and then on the spine as well. And so I'm going to use this one for my color wheel prompt instead. And then I'm going to use this one for my light source on the cover, because she is holding a candlestick. And so, yes, really looking forward to hopefully finishing this one out. I may need an extension of a day or so, but I'm not sure that I will, because if I remember correctly, this book was very good, and I may want to finish this one before the month is over, just by reading physically. But really, really enjoyable series. Still one of my most favorite series ever. And I'm really, really looking forward to the next book in this series when that comes out. So that is one of the books that I am currently reading. And just early this morning, when I finished A Court of Thorns and Roses, I picked up Kingdom Keepers number 3, which is Disney in Shadow. So this book is the 3rd book in the Kingdom Keepers series by Ridley Pearson. It follows a group of Disney tour guides who are kids. They get hired to become these holographic tour guides in the first book, and they find out that they are able to kind of become their holographic counterparts after hours in the park, and they end up like thwarting our villains' operations in each book. So the first book, I'm pretty sure, if memory serves me right, happens in Magic Kingdom. The second book happens in a bunch of the parks. So we get Magic Kingdom, we get Animal Kingdom, and I think Epcot and Hollywood Studios. Just little bits and pieces, but for the most part, it happens a lot in like Animal Kingdom and Epcot, I think. This one you can kind of see already, the Epcot ball right there. So Epcot, and I think it said Hollywood Studios. Yeah, Hollywood Studios and Epcot. And so it's the Walt Disney World Park, so it's the ones in Florida. And about this time last year, I had just come back from being in Florida from our Disney adventure. And so I thought, you know what? I'm feeling in the mood for some Disney reads, because we've also been watching a lot of the Mammoth Club videos on YouTube. Mammoth Club is a group of people who do a lot of like Disney Park, Universal Studios in Florida content, but they also have some Disneyland content, and they just do some like variety stuff. So they've got some games that they play, like Winner Picks Dinner. They have like who loser pays for our shopping spree. They have their favorite things at the parks and things like that. So we've just been really enjoying their content lately, and I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling in the mood for some Disney reading. With the Haunted Mansion book being not as good as I was hoping it to be, I needed a pick-me-up. And so I've been enjoying the series for what I read so far, the first 2 books. This has been a series that I've been wanting to finish for a long time, and I'm just now trying to make sure that I do that. So I thought this would be a nice one to start my kind of Disney reading, because it will continue a series for me, and it's a series that I've been wanting to finish for a while. And so yes, what I didn't realize was that this book was so thick. The first 2 books in this series are not this big, but this one is pretty big. And yeah, I didn't read very much. I only got to chapter 4. So I'm on chapter 4, page 29. So I really just started it. And so I'm looking forward to continuing with this one. But yeah, I think the Disney reads are going to be a fun thing for me. I do also want to kind of try another Haunted Mansion inspired book. And there are actually Haunted Mansion audiobooks. Like, I think they like follow some of the characters and are stories about the characters in the Haunted Mansion, or the spirits. I'm not quite sure about that, but I know they say the Haunted Mansion, and so I'm very interested. And so maybe after I finish my Ghost Hunter Mysteries, I will get into that. But as of right now, this is the only Disney book that I am currently reading. And I actually have some interest in reading a couple of other Disney-related books. Like, I know there's a Mirrorverse series that's out, and I'm kind of interested in checking that out. And like I said, the Haunted Mansion, and just, yeah. Disney's kind of a comfort thing for me. But instead of doing some rereads, I thought maybe I could continue in, a series, revisit some of the parks that way and things like that. And so that is the plan for right now. As of currently, I think I'm going to not be doing my TBR game again in May and just doing mood reads throughout the month. I don't think I am going to be participating in the Phase Out Your TBR Readathon either, because I think I just need to not have structure. I just need to pick up what I want to pick up and see if that'll turn things around for me. As of right now, it seems to be working okay. I'm ending out the month on a good note, I think, as far as my reads go. So I think we're headed in the right direction. So I'm going to continue that trend, and hopefully things will turn around for me. But that is what I've been currently reading. That is what I have finished this week. And so now it's time for another Yarnie update. And so I mentioned to you that I have a finished item. I did finish my mom's harvest. And so this is my mom's harvest. Harvest is a cardigan pattern from TinCanKnits. It is a free pattern. I knit this from their app. So the TinCanKnits app, really enjoy that app. It's very helpful. It's very, like, I don't know. It has all the counters there for you. So you don't really need to keep track. If you do it on the app, there's a way for you to use the counter on the app, and it's just really useful. It's very helpful. It keeps track of your project for you. And so, yes, really, really enjoyable pattern. I did this one out of Lion Brand Pound of Love yarn, which is an acrylic baby yarn, but this is worsted weight. And I used almost a full ball of the Oxford Gray, which is this light color, and I used just about half, I think, of a ball of this charcoal color. And so, yeah, so I took out all of the markers and I had soaked it because if you remember, I was working off of the gray from a previous project. So it was kind of like a blank, a sock blank, but it was all squiggly like ramen yarn. And so when I was finished, I did soak it to try to get it a little bit more even, and it looks really good right now. So with my one sleeve, I got this other sleeve and finished on the bottom. Everything looks great. My mom has tried it on. It does fit well. So yeah, very happy with this project. A little bit of a thing that I did as far as the soak for this though. I do not find that wool wash imparts any kind of fragrance onto my projects. And so I have a real problem when I block wool. Now, obviously this is not wool, this is acrylic, but I did use wool wash when I soaked this. When I block my wool projects, I do not like the smell of wet wool. It kind of makes me sick. And so when I hear everybody talking about, you know, they really enjoy their wool wash, it smells so good, I don't get that. My wool items, when I block them, smell like wet animal fur. And it's not a good smell for me. I do not like it. And so I've been trying to find like a way to like impart more fragrance. And I think, I've only tried this once, but I think I found the way to do it. And so, you know, or you may not know, but I do some like home fragrance videos, and I'm an independent Scentsy consultant. And one of the products that Scentsy offers is a what's called washer whiffs. It's a salt fragrance, like crystal, that you can put in your laundry to dissolve and impart fragrance into your laundry while it's washing. And so when I blocked this, I did my normal wool wash, and then I added a scoop of washer whiffs. And this smells very good. So I'm looking forward to trying that with my wools, because the washer whiffs being salt will also help, or should also help, with dye, the dye bleeding, because it'll help to set the dye if there is any extra dye in there. And so I'm really looking forward to testing all of this out on my wools. And so, yeah. But, yeah. Smells good. Not that acrylic smells like wet wool. But I do not like wet wool smell. I must be one of the few knitters that does not like wet wool smell. But it is not something that I enjoy. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that tip. If you use Scentsy washer whiffs, you might want to use it when you block your wools and see if it helps you. And so, yeah, it's definitely something I'm going to be trying later, but really, really enjoying this project so far. And like I said, it fit my mom really nicely, and I'm glad that I was able to finish it relatively close to her birthday. I finished it the day after, so on Monday, the 22nd. And so, yeah, this is done. Another finished item this year. I am feeling like I'm on a roll because it's been a while since I've had like substantial finished items, and now I have this cardigan, and I have the Pure Fuzz that I did for my daughter earlier this year on top of a pair of socks. So yeah, feeling really, really good about my knitting again, which is great because it's been a while since I've had a lot of like enthusiasm for it. And I really feel like my knitting mojo is coming back to me. So since I finished my mom's harvest, it was time for me to get back to my daughter's Pure Fuzz. This is in the Demon Slayer bag with my Muichiro zipper pull. So if you remember, I am doing a second Pure Fuzz for my daughter. Pure Fuzz is a pattern by Skeindeer from SkeindeerKnits. It was a free pattern for joining her newsletter a couple years ago, I think. And so I had done one for my daughter in Knit Picks Wonder Fluff, and now I am doing one for my daughter in Knit Picks Palette. So this is what it's looking like so far. I am marling some yarns, and it's just looking really, really nice. It's very interesting. I never know which color is going to come out when I'm doing my rows, but really nice. It looks very different from her Pure Fuzz that she has, just because of the types of yarn, and the feel is different as well. This is a more substantially thick sweater because I am marling yarns together as opposed to using one strand of Aran weight yarn. I was there when I talked to you about this one last, so right here. And so I've done this much this week after I started, after I finished my mom's harvest. So working along the body, I had considered doing the sleeves again first before I finished off the body, like I did with the original Pure Fuzz that I did for my daughter, but I thought it might be nice just to use up the skeins, and then do the sleeves after I finish up these skeins so I don't have all of the tangles and stuff. And so these are the three colors that I am marling together. This is Knit Picks Palette in Hollyberry. This is Knit Picks Palette in Mist. And this is Knit Picks Alpaca Cloud, which is 100% baby alpaca, in the colorway Thomas. So this is a lace weight. So 2 100% wool yarns and an alpaca lace weight to get my Aran weight gauge. I am getting 16 stitches per 4 inches. And so this is going to be slightly bigger than the intended size as far as gauge goes on the pattern. But it'll be slightly smaller than the Pure Fuzz that I had made for my daughter previously with the Knit Picks Wonder Fluff. So just a little bit. That one I got 17 stitches per 4 inches. This one I'm getting 16 inches per 4 inches. And the original says 15 stitches per 4 inches. So yeah, so far so good. Really, really interesting. I'm loving how it looks. And so yeah, right on the way on the body, I would say I have about 6 or 7 inches from the underarm, and I need to get to 19 inches. So once I finish these skeins that I have in progress, I will work on the sleeves and then go back to the body. And so that is pretty much everything that I have worked on this week, everything I've read, everything I'm currently reading. I really do want to try to finish up my Haikyuu socks before the Haikyuu movie comes out. I am waiting anxiously for those pre-order tickets to come out because we're definitely going to go see that in theaters. So we'll probably do a rewatch of Haikyuu right before, just so that we have, like, you know, continuous watching leading up to the events that are going to happen in that Haikyuu movie. So I definitely want to be able to wear those socks to the movie, like I did with Demon Slayer, wear my socks to the movie. And so I definitely see that one coming out this week. And then I have some plans for other projects. So we'll see if I'm able to cast those on later, but I'm really enjoying the process of knitting again. I'm really enjoying just sitting down with my needles and the yarn and just, you know, working away. It's something that I haven't kind of gravitated towards in a long time, and it's feeling really good, and I'm feeling really accomplished being able to finish projects and things like that. So yeah. As far as anything else, what have we watched this week? We finished Apartment 404, which is a Korean variety show that's on Amazon Prime. It's kind of a mystery element to it. Really enjoyed that. Was very surprised that the season was so short. It was only 8 episodes, but very enjoyable. So finished that off. And then last night we started a new Korean drama, which is Doom at Your Service. It is on Netflix. And in this one, it follows a woman who finds out that she only has 100 days to live. And as a shooting star goes over her home or her city, she kind of lashes out and says, "Bring doom to the world." And Doom, who happens to be a god or a deity or something, shows up and kind of wants to hold her to that wish. And so it is kind of mysterious because you know that there's something going on with Doom and why he's so insistent on this woman fulfilling her wish, but there's also some other things going on, so there's a mystery element in there as well. And yeah, it stars a couple of actors that I've watched before, and so there's a lot of familiarity with the people on the screen, and I'm just really enjoying it. I think we watched 4 episodes last night. Very enjoyable, so I'm looking forward to watching more of that in the future. And I think that's pretty much all there is for today. So let me know down in the comments below what you have been reading. I think by time this episode goes up, it'll be the 1st of May. So let me know how you did if you were participating in the Orilium Magical Readathon. Were you able to complete all your classes? And if not, are you taking an extension? If you're not participating in the Orilium Magical Readathon, were you able to get all of the books that you wanted to read finished? Let me know what your highest and lowest rated books of the month were. I would really love to know. And if nothing else, and you'd just like to let me know that you were here, if you could leave me a star emoji down in the comments below, that would be greatly appreciated and would really help me out. And that will do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.